Hey friends, Lindsay here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to layer vinyl without using registration marks. Now, the registration marks method is a tried and true method for creating layered vinyl decals. But some people think that it's a little bit wasteful because when you add the registration marks, it makes it so that you have to use a larger piece of vinyl, even for a small cut. But this method that I'm going to show you in today's video is just as accurate and allows you to use even the smallest bit of vinyl scraps because you don't have to add those registration marks. And it just uses something that you probably already have in your kitchen: translucent parchment paper. Of course, you're also going to need vinyl. I'm using various colors of Oracal 651 permanent glossy vinyl, and I threw a link in the description to where you can grab some over at Swing Design. And then you're also going to need some transfer tape and a burnishing tool. And then last but not least, something to apply your vinyl decal to, like a notebook, which is what I'm going to use in today's video. So let's go ahead and get started making layered vinyl decals without registration marks. So since this tutorial is about layering vinyl, we're just going to quickly gloss over the part about cutting it. Again, I'm using Oracal 651 permanent vinyl and the Silhouette Cameo 4 to cut out the design that I want, which is actually a font that comes with these extra doodles. The font is called Butter Sandwich, and this cheeseburger is one of the little extra doodles that comes with. And I put a link in the video description if you want to check out the design over at Fontsy and also the Silhouette Cameo 4. So just cut out the design, all the different parts of the decal and the different colors of vinyl, and weed out the extra vinyl. What's important to note about this design is that it has this big, bold, black outline, and designs like this work really well for this layering technique. So now with all the pieces cut and weeded, it's time to start transferring them to the transfer tape. And you want a piece of transfer tape that measures slightly larger than the entire design. And one of the most important things to remember about vinyl layering is that you're going to start with the layer that is in front and work your way down to the back. So work from front to back, which in this case is this big, bold black outline, because that's the way I cut out this file. So all the other different colors of vinyl are going to sit behind it to fill in the different sections of it. So transfer the frontmost piece to a piece of transfer tape and then remove the vinyl backing. I've always found that it's easiest to flip the piece over and roll the back away from the vinyl. Now here's where the parchment paper comes in. I have two pieces that I cut bigger than the finished vinyl decal. And the first piece of parchment I'm going to apply to the back of the vinyl that I've transferred to the transfer tape. And the vinyl and the transfer tape only temporarily adhere to the parchment. It's not a permanent stick. Take your second piece of parchment paper and place it on your work surface in front of you. Now take the next layer of vinyl, and in this case, everything else that's cut from the vinyl decal, it sits on the same layer, sits on the same plane. So for this design, it doesn't really matter which piece that I choose next. So here's just the top bun of the cheeseburger that I've weeded, but it's still on its vinyl backing. If you are using a vinyl decal that does have multiple layers with, different pieces sitting on top of one another, remember to always work from front to back. So the frontmost piece working down to the one that sits in the back. So place that next piece on the parchment paper on your work surface, and then lay the top vinyl piece over it. And it's got the parchment paper behind it, so it's not going to pick up the vinyl on the work surface. And the parchment is translucent, so I can see through it, and I can move it around to align it perfectly on top. I let a little bit of the transfer tape hang off the edge of the parchment paper so that I can stick it to my work surface, and then fold it back like a hinge and remove the parchment that it was on, and then I can just lay it right back down, this time on the next layer of vinyl exactly where it was positioned before, and I'm going to burnish it with my vinyl tool. Then flip the transfer tape over, remove the parchment, and then remove the vinyl backing from that second layer. Then put it back on a piece of parchment, and then you're just going to repeat with all the remaining layers. Remember, working from front to back. And this is why I cut that transfer tape larger than the actual decal, so I can have some of it to hang off the edge of the parchment, and that'll stick to my work surface. It acts like that hinge, so I can keep it in place, fold it back, remove the parchment that it was sticking to, and then lay that vinyl decal just right back on top of where it was before. It's perfectly aligned, and it'll pick up the next layer of vinyl. Flip it over, remove the vinyl backing, and repeat. Now you also want to make sure to cut your parchment paper pieces bigger than the final decal as well, and make sure that when you fold the transfer tape back down to pick up the next layer of vinyl, that you're laying it back down on top of parchment, and that you're not laying it on top of your work surface below, because then the vinyl on the transfer tape would stick to your work surface, and then you'd go to pull it up and it would ruin your decal, and depending on what you're working, maybe possibly ruin your work surface. So cut that piece of parchment so that the entire decal is going to fit on top of it. And you can do these steps as many times as you need until the entire decal is layered together. Here I'm going to show you again so that you can really see it. But, see how small that vinyl cut is. This was just a small scrap in my stash, and there's no way I would have been able to add registration marks to it because this vinyl scrap is just not big enough for that. But it was big enough for cutting out the actual part of the design I wanted to use it for. So that's what I'm saying about this method being great for being able to use your small vinyl scraps, because as long as it's big enough for the design to fit on it, you can use it in your layered vinyl decal like this. Now I did speed up this footage to double speed, but I'm working carefully to make sure that I get everything all lined up. But I wouldn't say that this method takes much longer than layering vinyl with registration marks. Another thing you do want to note is that when you're folding the transfer tape back and removing the parchment paper from it, the pieces laying on the work surface, so the vinyl cut and then the parchment that it's sitting on, those do not move. You want everything to stay in the exact same spot so that the transfer tape will lay back down exactly where you had lined it up over the parchment. And you just want to remove the parchment layer to do that. And it'll pick up the vinyl right where you want it. So I find parchment paper really helpful in my craft room. I also use it for pressing HTV as a protective cover sheet. If you do find that the parchment is rolling up on you and it's not laying flat, then you can take it to your iron or even your heat press to press it flat, lay something on top of it as it cools, and then it's going to stay flat. So you can see that this cheeseburger vinyl decal is coming along great. I'm really happy with how it's coming out. And once I have all the vinyl layers on the transfer tape, I'm going to put it back onto a piece of parchment and then grab my notebook. And I've already put a piece of white vinyl on the notebook because I want the vinyl decal to really stick out over this busy background. And now I'm going to apply the decal just like I would any other vinyl decal. I like using the hinge method. With the decal still on the parchment, I'm going to cut out right around the very edge of it, and then place it on the notebook, holding it in place with a piece of low tack painter's tape across the middle. This is what's going to act as my hinge so that I can pull up one side of the decal and cut away the parchment underneath. Then I can lay it right back down and use my vinyl scraping tool to burnish it down. Then remove the tape from the middle And now the right side is acting as my hinge, so I can pick up the left side of the decal, remove the remaining parchment, and lay that right back down and use my vinyl tool to burnish it really, really well. And then don't forget to remove the transfer tape from over the top and burnish it again. All right, so there you have it, friends, how to layer vinyl without using registration marks. So just like anything, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And, you know, you can always do whatever vinyl layering technique works best for you. Now you just have another trick up your sleeve for, especially helpful for those times when you just have a little tiny bit of a color left, not enough to add registration marks to. Now you know how to layer it into a vinyl decal. So grab some 651 permanent glossy vinyl with swing design. You can grab the design over at Fontsy. I've got links in the description, so you can check those things out. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Bye!